Hi, everybody. How are you today? My name is Brittany, and I will be your host for today's live. I know you can't see me right now on the screen. That's because it's so much easier to just share Rachel's screen right off the bat because she will be doing digital art for us today. If you have a question, please don't be shy. Just type it in the chat using all capital letters so I can defer it from a comment easily. Also, we will be doing a quick Q&A at the end with Rachel. If you have any questions that aren't really pertaining to what she's doing in the moment, I will save them for the end. With that being said, Rachel, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay. So hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'm going to be doing digital art today and just kind of showing what my process is for that. And this is a piece that I've had like pre-done, and I've gone through and finished the piece just to show you guys what I'll be making today. But I have it like separated out into layers on Procreate. And if you're wondering, I am using the iPad Pro with an Apple Pencil. And so just to show you some work that I've done in the past that people kind of know me for, this is a piece that I did for like a study based off of a painting called The Beautiful Lady Without Fear by Frederick Dixie, I think. And had that on a lot of things. I like to show people that what I could do. And something else that's similar to that is another study based off of a painting. Takes a while to load because there's a lot of layers, but another example. And then a lot of people know me for my Nighttober series where I did 31 illustrations, all digital as well. And I made a book based off of that I have in my shop that people like to look at and stuff. So this is what I have today. And I'm going to be doing it again for you guys just to show you my process. So if we're good to start, then just let me know. Good? We're good. Okay. So usually...
Sorry, I just realized I was muted. Yes,
oh, God.
We're good to start.
Okay.
And just to let people know,
right.
This will be recorded and put on our YouTube channel so you guys can watch it later.
Yep. So if anybody has missed this and they're watching again, hello and welcome. So this is what I usually start with. I don't always do traditional in the beginning, but this is a picture that I just took with my iPad or my phone. Either one doesn't matter. And I imported it into my iPad to Procreate. And this is just a really rough sketch, just the idea of what I had for this drawing. And so what I'll do first is just turn down the opacity, and then I'll do a more cleaned up sketch based off of that. So you can see the difference between the two. Like what I changed, like I got rid of the second bird. I kind of changed, like she has a little cloth in her hand instead. I'll make executive decisions based off what I think looks best. And then once that looks good and I like it, I'll just do the same thing, turn down the opacity, and I will do the more cleaned up line art. And so since that can take a lot of time, I have that pre-done. And so today I'll just be coloring it and showing you guys how I go through that process. So to start off with, I have a ton of different palettes that I like to use for different projects. So I'm just going to start a new one. And I'm also using CMYK, just to let you guys know. I'm using, I think this might be in the description somewhere, but I'm using 3500 by 4300 pixels with, I believe, 300 resolution, because that is standard for print. So it is not pixely when it prints out, or if I want it to go on any merch if I wanted to. So I have all the line art done. So I'm gonna go ahead and block out my base color. So I'll pick, doesn't really matter at first, just kind of something random that I can see well. And I'll just go ahead and block out my main shapes that I have. So I'm just gonna go ahead and block out the main form of the lady here. And depending how detailed I'm doing something, I might instead choose to just block out the face first and then fill that in, and then block out the hair first, fill that in. But since it's just kind of simple, I'll just kind of go through and block everything out.
Rachel, people are curious as to what brush you're currently using.
Yeah, so right now I'm using, this is just called the Studio Pen, and I'll use that just for plain old coloring things in. When I do my liner, I like to use dry ink. That's been my favorite recently. I think it's very nice. I also like to use Tinderbox, and these are all brushes that come with Procreate, by the way. Dry ink and Studio Pen are both, I believe, I've left those to their original states. I haven't like changed any of their settings, but this one for Tinderbox, the one that it comes with Procreate is a little bit transparent, so I changed it. And you can go in here and you can change things like the grain and the depth. Let's see, that doesn't change anything. It just kind of, you just mess with things, see what it does. But I changed it so it's nice and opaque. So I'll go back to Studio Pen, just block things out. And I know you said you were having tea. I also have tea. I'm very comfy.
Yeah, you gotta.
I'm not gonna hold my tea over my iPad.
Sorry to cut you off.
That's okay. I'm gonna say, like, I don't want to hold my tea over my iPad. That's a mistake. I don't want to happen.
Good idea. What I love too about doing demos with the iPad is that you can really zoom in and show everybody what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. Because originally I was gonna do an overhead of what I was doing, and you can see like my hand and how I'm kind of like pressing which buttons. But this way you can see all the detail and really get it up and close and personal. And I know a lot of people, when they see this on my hand, they're like, oh no, what happened to your wrist? But it's okay. It's fine. I do all my stretches. This is for the iPad. It tends to rub against my hand, and sometimes it'll mess up my lines. So it just helps to make it nice and smooth.
If you can't see what Rachel's wearing on her hand, it's actually just like a little glove that reduces the sensitivity for your iPad.
Yeah.
So Rachel, you're just going out outlining the drawing. Are you outlining?
Yep, I'm just going in with just a base color and going through and taking all of the forms that I've made and making a big outline around that, because when you're using something like Procreate, it has to have a closed line for it to fill something in. So the way you do that is, now that I've done just one continuous line around the whole drawing, I'm going to take that color and drag it, and then it'll do that. And then something that Procreate has is this dragging feature. So if I drag it all the way, then it'll have more of a threshold and it'll color in like more or less. It's kind of hard to tell, but sometimes when you use a brush like Tinderbox, for example, and you do a circle, it has these kind of jagged edges. So if you have something like that, it has this open part of the line and you try and fill it in, it's not gonna do that. But if it's closed and there's like a teensy bit still open, it might still, because it's down on the threshold. But if I put it all the way up here, it's gonna fill in more, I guess. Because if I put it all the way down, it's hard to see on this one, but sometimes with the lines, you can have a bit of, like right here is a speck that didn't get filled in. So I'm just gonna fix anything that needs fixing. And then once I've done that and everything looks relatively cleaned up, then I'm gonna go back into my layers. And for now, you can disregard the rest. This is just the line art and things that I have prepared. But so far, you'd have your line art or how many layers you want for that. Missed a feather. Feather filled. Okay, so this, and then I'm going to make a new layer and I'm going to tap on that layer and do a clipping mask. And then from here, I will go in and fill in the specific parts of the figure that I want to fill in, like the skin, for example. I think I picked kind of like a peachy light tone. And then I'll just do that same thing again with the same brush that I did outlining the whole form, but just going in a more detailed way and filling in the parts that I want. I think the threshold is too high. Or not. Where is it open? Oh, it's here. Yep. Oop. And hands. Some people like to work just on one layer, which is totally fine. It's just up to what you prefer. But I like to use multiple layers just to get a little bit more organized, I guess. So if I wanted to go back and change the skin color, now it's on this separate layer. So if I wanted, I could go up here to adjustments and maybe change the hue, and this, and then that wouldn't change anything else about any of the other colors. It would only change that layer. So I do that, and then next I usually do the hair. So I'll do another clipping mask. And I made her hair this dark purple, which I tend to use a lot.
Sorry to cut you off, Rachel.
Yeah, no problem.
We got a quick question about the ear, how you, so at first when you tried to color drop it, it went everywhere and then you got it to work. So I was just wondering how you managed to do that.
Yes, so what I did is that when I was coloring it in, I'll just use this dark color for an example. I went like this. And since there's this hair in the way, it was, how do I phrase it? It was in the way of me seeing that if I were to get rid of all the clipping masks and I just looked at that layer, then I would see there's this open part. So if it's open, then it's not going to fill it in. And it's going to, wait. Oh, that's because I'm on this layer. So there's this layer of skin. And so since this is on the same layer, it's going to color it in because there's more of that. But if it was on a different layer, let me choose a different color just to show you. So now this is on a different layer. The background of this layer is transparent. So there's nothing else here. So if I got rid of this, that's the only thing that's there. So if I try and fill it in, it'll just go everywhere. So I closed it up and now it fills it in. So it's kind of hard to explain because there's some layers and things everywhere. So, okay. Hope that makes sense. It's hard to explain sometimes.
I got what you're saying. Hopefully it makes sense to the participant.
And another thing to make life easier for yourself, if you want, sometimes I like to take the hair and put it underneath the skin. So if I wanted to, I could do, like, I can color underneath the skin as much as I want, and it's not going to show up. So, camera shaking. So I can kind of just go everywhere and I won't have to worry about that layer getting messed up. But in this case, I have the eyebrow that I want to put on the same layer. So I'm going to just put it on top. So I can do that.
Rachel, was it difficult for you to transition from traditional to digital art?
I would say for sure when I started out, it was definitely a big change. I started out with a pretty cheap, like Wacom tablet, and I used that with my old laptop. And the way that was, it made it so difficult was because there was a disconnect between my hand and what I was actually drawing. So if I was using that, it would connect to my laptop, and the thing I was using was blank, but what I was doing was basically using my Wacom as a mouse for my computer, but it was a stylus. So what I was drawing, I was looking at in front of me and not what my pencil was touching. So there's this big disconnect, and learning to use that was pretty difficult. But with the iPad, I'm drawing directly onto what I'm doing. So it's a little bit less of a learning curve and a little bit more intuitive, which is why I like it. Same thing with the Cintiq that a lot of professional artists use. That is similar in that you can use it for Photoshop and more bulky programs like Clip Studio Paint. But it's not too different from traditional art, but there's a lot to learn about the program itself is the biggest thing, because there's so many shortcuts and things that you need to learn. Like to undo in Procreate is double tap, and to redo is triple tap. You can also use these buttons here on the left side. So it just takes some learning. If you look up some tutorials, then it's not too hard. And it's another reason why I like Procreate, is because it's pretty intuitive and they keep releasing new things that make it really nice to use.
You will also be doing a mini workshop with us. Are you going to be going into more detail about little tricks like that in Procreate?
Yeah, I'll be sure to go into a lot more about my like shortcuts and things, like how I got this set up. I have a quick menu. I have all of my palettes and things, how I go through that, and just kind of like more little tips and tricks, because I probably won't have enough time to go through that today since I have to go and finish this. And I'll go through more of like what my process is for getting an idea for illustration, stuff like that. Probably go from more start to finish instead of having a lot of it done in the first place. Let's see. So I have the hair blocked out. What do I want to do next? I should do the bird, which is also
another
black.
Question for you in the chat.
Yeah.
How do you decide which drawings or paintings go on the same layer? Is it based on color or body parts, would you say?
I would say based on color, usually. Like the skin, the face, and this hand are the same color that I'm going to be using. So I'm just going to put those on the same layer. And in this case, the hair and the bird, I put on different layers. I don't think I really need to, but I just kind of feel like it. It's just kind of what comes up in my brain. And that also makes me realize that I don't name my layers a lot. And I suggest that you do, because sometimes if you're me, you have a lot of layers and you lose track of what you're doing. So I'm going to name them just for you. I'm going to rename, do hair, just so I don't get too disorganized. Bird and skin. And this is the base. Okay. I have my thing on do not disturb, but I'm still getting notifications. Okay.
I think the bar will come up. It just won't make a noise. Yeah.
See, I'm going to do the armor. And I like to use this palette that I made for my Nighttober series, just because I took a while to figure out what I liked, and it tends to work for a lot of them. So I kind of go back and use this one a lot. So for armor, I kind of like to use this lighter, but still kind of dark purple. And that's something I learned over time, is that if something is black in your mind, then it's kind of more, it makes it more dynamic if you don't use straight black and white, because usually in real life things aren't black and white. So if you were to see armor in real life, you'd say that's gray. But in real life, it's reflecting off of a lot of other things. So in reality, it's got some purples, it's got some blue from the sky, it's probably got some green tints to it from the grass around the person. Like, it really depends what the mood is you're going for as well. So in this case, I wanted to be kind of dark and moody because she's got a crow, she's got a bloody knife, whatever vibes.
Are you drawing your web comic series in Procreate too?
I am, yeah. I use Procreate for pretty much everything that I do. I would in the future, I think, like to switch to something like Clip Studio, just because I've heard a lot of nice things about it, that it can speed up your process. But I don't have a PC, and I would like a PC to be able to use it, because I was gifted a Cintiq that I could use for that. And the biggest reason is because eventually my iPad is going to run out of space, and I don't want it to get slowed down because I have so many files from it. But yeah, I do use that.
You can also transfer your files onto like a stick or something as well.
Yeah, I do have a, what's it called? A portable drive that's got a terabyte on it. But I don't know, it's just kind of a hassle to do things through the iPad, because say this was done and I would go here, share, and then whichever you want to save it as, and then I have to save it to my drive, like my Google Drive, and I have to go on my computer and then take it from my Google Drive and put it onto my drive. And it'd be just kind of easier to have it directly on my computer instead of going through all of that.
Fair enough.
It's just a matter of like quickness, makes it easier.
Mm-hmm. I like to think it's a shortcut. I don't know if it actually is, but I use my email as kind of like a Dropbox. Like I'll send myself files and just kind of have it there and available wherever.
Okay. Still an extra step. I don't know. I'm lazy.
Yeah, it is.
Let's see, we'll put this underneath.
So we have a couple people that arrived a little late. No worries. You didn't miss a whole lot. Rachel just outlined the character, and then she dropped the color in. And we also talked a little bit about her upcoming mini workshop on April 2nd. She's going to be doing another figure drawing. She'll go into a little bit more detail. She'll go completely from sketch to finish, correct?
That's what I was planning on, yeah.
Yeah. And then you'll also be going into a little bit more detail about little tricks and tips behind Procreate.
Let's see, belt also black. I know this is the hair layer, but I'm just gonna put the belt on the same layer.
Another question for you. So most Procreate drawings I've seen had better line work than drawings on PC and drawing tablets. Does that mean that iPad/Procreate is just better for line work, or is it about skills?
I think it really depends on the person, because I've seen some really nice line art from people who use a Cintiq versus iPad. I think if somebody is using something that is like direct to screen, I guess, like the iPad or a Cintiq, it's a little bit more intuitive. So you're able to get a bit more of that organic line that most people want. So I think in that sense, sometimes it can be better, but there are people who use a mouse in Paint sometimes who are better than other people. It just really depends.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. I think it's wild that some people can do this all with just a mouse.
It blows my mind. I could never.
No.
See, sword. See, I use kind of a orangey bronze.
And don't worry, everyone, if you miss something during the live today, it will be uploaded on our YouTube channel, and you guys can always check it out later. So how long would you say you've been drawing with digital art?
I started, I think, around sixth grade, perhaps. That sounds about right. It's hard to remember because I've made so much stuff, but it's been at least at least 6 years, maybe 7. And I think I got the iPad around 2016. So I've had this for a good minute. It's not a new iPad. I got it from, I think I got it from eBay. And I got lucky. It still works.
Which generation is it? Just so people can know they don't have to buy the newest iPad if they want to try digital art on the iPad.
Yeah, this one, I tried checking. I'm not good at knowing things. I can go into my settings and like show you.
We'll do that at the end during the Q&A.
Okay, well, it's there. I think it's a 14.4, or that might be the software that I downloaded. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's the software.
Yeah, I don't know what generation it is, but it's not new. As long as it can support the Apple Pencil, then it's good. I know a newer iPad came out since then, or maybe a few, because Apple releases new stuff like every month, it seems. But unlike the phones, which I also have, if you have it, like if you have an Apple phone, after a while, it just kind of stops working. With this, it's been good. It's been pretty solid. The only thing I'd say is with the pencil, sometimes the nib can get a little worn down, so you have to replace it every few months. That's about it.
How many colors have you used so far?
Let's see. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with this shady color. Around 6, I guess.
How do you choose the colors that would go well with your character and other colors? Do you choose colors that would best describe your character's personality, or?
Generally, I tend to go that way. Like in this sense, I wanted it to be kind of dark and moody, but also a little bit regal, I guess, which is why I ended up in the end, I chose this red to go behind her. So she's kind of like royalty. And I added gold and just some pearls around her neck. So she's like this rich, noble lady. But when it comes to just choosing colors in general, it took me a long time to find out what I like to use. And I think right now I'm in this kind of sort of muted range, but with little pops of color here and there. It's kind of hard to say because I sort of know color theory, but I don't feel like I know enough about it to say exactly why I choose the colors I do. It's just kind of like I keep messing with things until I like it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like visually, you can see if it goes well together.
Yeah.
So Rachel, just to let you know, you're a little over the halfway mark.
Okay.
If we get close to the end and you still have a little bit of work to do, we can always just do the Q&A and have you keep working if that's all right with you.
That's fine with me.
Are you using any reference for the cloth and armor she's wearing?
I kind of. I have a lot of Pinterest boards with just kind of different clothing that I like, but there wasn't a specific pose a person was doing with this exact outfit. I, for this one, was really inspired by an illustration from a book that I just got. I'll be back in like 1 second. It is called The Wild Swans by Hans Christian Andersen and is illustrated by Gordon Lighty. But this one on the end is what inspired me to do like her crown and this kind of border. I really liked it. It's very pretty. Lots of like vintage illustration has been inspiring me lately because it's so like it's just got a warm feel. It's just it's crispy.
It's a little hard to see because the screen's small, but we can show people again during the Q&A.
Yeah. I was hoping I'd be able to finish, but sometimes it can take me about 4 hours to finish an illustration. And I have are we going for an hour or an hour and a half?
It's an hour. The mini workshop's an hour and a half.
Okay. So yeah, trying to brush. Lots of little details to cover.
It's okay. We'll just try to save more of the questions for the Q&A then. We'll let you focus a little more.
Okay. Sometimes it gets stuck and I don't know why. When it does that, oh shoot. Oh no. My bad. I closed Zoom.
Oh.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I'll just reopen it.
We'll go a couple minutes over to make up for lost tech time.
Okay.
And Sorry for the tech issues, everybody. We'll be back up and running in just a minute. I'll take this time to advertise your mini workshop coming up again on April 2nd. I'll drop another link in the chat for it. If you guys are curious, you can use this little break time to go check it out. I might have to make you a co-host again. Is that the issue?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay. There we go. Got it. Screen.
There we go.
There we go.
Sorry about that, everybody.
Okay, it's up and running. My bad. Okay, there we go. Okay, I'm gonna go in on skin and do the blush because that's one of my favorite parts. So with this one, I always like to use Bonobo chalk. That's one of my favorite brushes because it gives this really textured look that I really like. I like to do the ears. I like to do the bingies. Okay.
Would you say this style of drawing is very much to a T your style, or do you mix things up every now and then?
I think right now I would say this is my style, which has taken a long time to figure out. I do tend to mix things up sometimes though. I do some stickers, and I don't always do things that are like in this realm of what's it called, like topic, I guess. Like sometimes I just like to draw frogs. I like to draw snails. It just depends on what I'm feeling.
So if you have any questions for Rachel during the Q&A, don't be shy, just type them in the chat and I'll ask her during that time. Rachel, would you say that on a single drawing, you can use a huge variety of brushes, or do you tend to just stick to like maybe 3 different ones?
Oh yeah, I like to stick to mostly studio pen or the kind of basic brush that it comes with just to fill in things. The dry ink for line art, Tinderbox also for line art. Usually I use that for my comic. And for sketching, I use the 6B pencil. Sometimes if I have like leaves and things, I like to go into drawing, and they have stuff like whichever one that one is, Evolve. I like to use for bushes and trees sometimes, but usually I just use these in my faves.
Which one did you use for the blush on the cheeks again?
That was this one, Bonobo Chalk. I'll use that for blush. I'll use that for like sweaters if they're fuzzy. Let's see. Do a multiply layer. Choose the color in there.
So Rachel, if it's all right with you, we're gonna go like about 5 minutes over the original time.
Okay, no problem.
Just because the short little tech issue we had.
One of the biggest things I do, I'll just go ahead and do it now, is I change my line art to an alpha lock layer, and then I will go in and color my line art to a lighter color, just kind of match things, kind of depends on what I'm doing.
Getting a lot of great questions for the Q&A here. Thank you all so much for the amazing questions. I'll ask Rachel during the Q&A spot. I love that we're doing digital demos and stuff now too, because I find that not everybody in the art world, but I find a lot of traditional artists don't look at digital art the same. And I'm glad that it's becoming more mainstream.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of older artists or artists in general, if they've never tried digital art, they tend to look at it as easier than traditional. And it's definitely not. In some ways, it's just different, but it has its own challenges, and you're still making art the same way you would something else with a paintbrush. It just has different techniques.
Yeah, it's just like a different medium.
Yeah. There's no cheating unless you're like copying someone, which is bad. Don't do that.
So we have about 20 minutes left.
Okay. That's a good amount of time.
So someone just asked, are you about 50% done or?
I'd say now, yeah, 50% seems about right. I'm gonna do line art, and then I have some little other bits that I added on.
Another question, is the mini workshop also for people who use traditional media? Yeah, if you're wanting to get into digital art or sorry, did I misunderstand your question? Could you also apply these techniques to traditional art? Is that your question?
Sounds like, yeah, like if you do traditional art and you wanted to watch what I was doing, then I think, yeah, because I would like to go more into style in general and less about how I use Procreate in a sense, which I still would do, but going into like how I draw faces and what I like to do when it comes to like a concept for drawing. So I think you could apply that to whatever you like to do, whatever you like the most. And in the original drawing, I made this border and there's some bits that kind of go on top of her. So that's on top and that's on bottom. And I added some, like a deep red color.
If you want to learn more about Rachel's style of digital art and you're curious about Procreate shortcuts and tips and just how to use the program maybe, I highly suggest checking out her mini workshop. She's going to be going into a lot more detail with that kind of stuff.
And then since this is one, like, I don't know, issue, like thing I had to figure out when I was originally making this is that I wanted the bird and her hair to be black. So to separate the two figures, I just made this separating line of her hair and the bird red. So you can see they're two separate forms, I guess. So they're not blending into each other and they pop out.
I apologize if you guys can hear background noise on my end. There's a little bit of construction going on in the apartment above me. So we had someone comment that they loved how you did the eye, and then two others commented right after saying how they were just about to say the same thing.
Oh, thanks.
So someone mentioned they remember in the beginning how you filled the figure all in one color. Is that layer currently being used in overlay?
It's not in an overlay layer. I'm just using it as the base to put all of my clipping masks over, so it'll all stay in the area that I filled in the first place. And sometimes I do like to go in with an overlay layer. So if I did another layer, did a clipping mask, and I wanted to change it to overlay, and if I wanted all of this underneath that to have like a reddish hue, overlay. And then I sometimes like to tone down the opacity. I can tint it so it has a little bit more of a, like a nice, how do you say, je ne sais quoi, you know? Mm-hmm. But I'm just sticking to that. Depends what I'm doing.
So in about 5-ish minutes, I'll start the Q&A process.
Okay, sounds good.
Great questions, everyone. I'm saving them all on a little note to ask Rachel in a few minutes. So I'm just dropping a link in the chat for a quick little survey. It takes less than 2 minutes. It's multiple choice. It just helps us to know things that we might need to improve on for future demos, or if we don't have anything to improve on and you just want to tell us how great we did, you can also mention that in the survey there. It really helps us out. If you guys wouldn't mind filling that out, thank you so much. So Rachel, we did get a good chunk of questions for the Q&A, so I'm just going to start now, if that's okay.
No problem.
So what was the name of the brush you used for the shading?
So shading, I'll just name them all. I don't really use too many. For the face, for the blush, I use Bonobo chalk. And then for shading like here, just kind of in general, if I want it to have a little bit of texture and not be so flat, then I'll use dry ink. And then just for filling in flat colors, I'll use Studio Pen.
Awesome. Any tips for making line art?
Line art, if you have trouble having fluid lines and you feel like you're pretty shaky, you can pick a brush with more of a stabilizer. If you're using a digital program, like if I wanted this brush to be more like smooth, then I would take the streamline option right here and I would make that go up. And if I want it to be like, if I use that, then it's really smooth. But if I want it to be more like using an actual pencil, then I would put it all the way down and it would have all the shakiness that comes with that. So if you want to do liner, I would suggest turning up that. But over time, I would say just in general, it's just muscle memory. You just kind of get good after a while.
You can also hold down the Apple Pencil after making a line if you want to like make it a perfect curve or make it straight. I use that one a lot. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Just going off, like if I want to circle, you just hold it and then boom, circle. And something I didn't know for a while is you can go to edit shape up here and make it a perfect circle or a polyline, and you can change it, do stuff. It's very cool. I use that a lot.
I'm super thankful that they put that into the program because I cannot draw straight lines.
Same here. Sometimes I'm getting better, but no, I need help.
Do you have any tips on how to fill colors? For some reason, I always struggle with keeping inside the lines.
I think it's a good question.
Maybe using like an alpha lock or something like that.
Yeah, that tends to help. Like if I want to have a shape and I just want a color inside of that, that's why I tend to use what I did at the beginning. Like I'll take a base and I'll just do what I did at the beginning is I'll take a base and I'll outline and color in, like there's my person, color that in. And then I'll go on top and do a clipping mask, or I could change this to alpha lock and then that'll stay inside that shape no matter what I do. So that can be one way that might help you.
I was wondering, when designing characters, do you have to take perspective into account?
It depends on the piece for sure, but yes, I think it's an important thing to know, but not an end all be all. Like you don't have to be a master at perspective to draw people, but it is very helpful if you're doing any sort of poses or you're putting them in actual like situations. Like with comics, you definitely have to start learning perspective, which I hate, but you need it. You need a lot of it when it comes to that. But when you're doing stuff like this, which is kind of more editorial illustration work, it's a little bit more flat sometimes, or at least depending on what you're doing. So you can and you can't.
It also depends on your style too, I think. Like if you're someone like Picasso, you're not going to be worrying about perspective.
Yeah.
What do you draw as an exercise? Is there anything, or is there something that you are still learning?
I am definitely still learning how to draw buildings. Horses are devils to draw. They don't make sense. Folding clothes, like this cloth that she's holding, and like dresses and things, I'm still learning that, like how fabric tends to fold over itself. I think I don't really have a full grasp on it yet. I tend to look at a lot more reference, and I tend to draw straight from it instead of like knowing how it works yet. So I'm still working on that.
I suggest you watch the live demo we did the other day. Then we actually did how to do drawing fold fabric and stuff like that.
Oh, that's good. I need that.
How did you learn these Procreate shortcuts and tricks?
YouTube for sure is really helpful. I also have been using TikTok lately, and there's some people who use Procreate. I forget her name, but if there's a way I can like share it with you, I can give that to you. And she shares like those little tips and tricks that are in Procreate that I didn't know. But if you're just a beginner and you're learning, if you just want to start out, then just go on YouTube, look up tutorials like beginner Procreate tutorial, and there's lots for you.
So I have been trying to learn as many things as possible, like portraits, painting, animating, gestures, etc., and I find it difficult. So I was wondering if you think it's necessary to know all of it.
Oh, you don't have to know everything. I think pick the thing that makes you the most happy and the thing that you look forward to drawing, and get really good at that, because that was a struggle that I had at the beginning of doing my art. Like, there's so many people who do really realistic styles, and at first I wanted to do that, and then some people have super simple styles and I want to do that, and then some people are super good perspective and blah blah blah. But eventually I just found I like ladies, they are pretty, and I want to draw them, so I drew them a lot. And I don't know, I think you should condense a little bit more, because if you try and learn everything, then you're going to overload yourself.
I know you mentioned making your line work an alpha lock layer to color it. Is there an advantage of using that over a clipping mask?
I think using a clipping mask can have a little bit more of an advantage, because if I use an alpha lock, and if I wanted to go back and change that color, it would be more difficult because it's all there. So if this was just all black and I put something on top and I made that clipping mask and did the coloring of the clipping mask for the line art over that, then I think it'd be easier to go in and change a little bit. But since I already know what I'm going to do and I've done this piece before, then it's fine that I just kind of go in on the same layer.
How do you blend your colors?
For my style, I don't do a lot of blending, but when it comes to like shading, I like to use a multiply layer a lot, because that helps it stay within the same hue and it looks cohesive. Like if I had a skin tone and I just decided like, oh, I think her blush would be super pink and pink is blush, and I went and did that, then it totally wouldn't work with that color. So usually what I do is like I pick the exact same skin color that I used. I would go on top of the skin layer, make a clipping mask, make it multiply, and then it'll make it a darker color. And it's pretty much always going to match that color scheme that you're working with.
So we got a little comment that I think is interesting. Apparently the Bonobo chalk was removed in Procreate 5.
What? How dare they? It's like the best brush.
So
I mean, yeah.
So I don't know if you can share maybe that brush, because you still have it.
Maybe I can. I'd have to look up how, but there are a lot of artists who sell their own brush packs, which is how I got Vivi watercolors, which I used a little bit a while ago. I don't really use them now, but a lot of people do. It gives you like realistic watercolor brushes. So let me pick like a blue, and this one looks like that. It's very pretty if you really like watercolor, how that looks. Let's see if I get any other ones. GVW, I got this one. I think I wanted to use it for my comics somewhere. It's like these glyphs, ink sprinkle. There's lots of ads. I think, I forget the website, it's creative something, but there's a bunch of different brush packs that you can find.
Awesome. Well, we're getting close to the end. So we went over a little bit because we had a small tech issue. That's looking really good, Rachel.
Thank you.
I love the style.
Thank you. I was worried I wouldn't be able to do it again, because sometimes you make something and you're like, how did I even do that? I don't think I could do it again, but I think I got it. It's going all right. It's a little bit messy. Near the end, I would go in and look for any little blips that I missed and fix that. see, I like to do my 6B pencil and do a little bit of texture.
So I'm gonna leave it open for like 2 more minutes.
Okay.
I dropped another link for Rachel's upcoming mini workshop class with us. If you guys wanted to check out the class page, you're more than welcome to. If Rachel can magically figure out a way to maybe get that Bonobo chalk brush sent to us and you sign up for the mini workshop, it'll most likely be in an email file for that mini workshop.
Yeah, I'll do my best to figure that out.
If not, don't stress about it.
Yeah.
Someone mentioned earlier that that brush is available in legacy brush set packs. So
okay, cool.
If Rachel can't get us it and you really want that brush, you can look it up in the legacy brush packs. People are saying how amazing it looks. It looks like a book cover.
Thank you. That's one of my goals in the future is to illustrate a book cover. It'll be like, dream come true, love books. I know they say don't judge a book by its cover, but I will judge books by their covers because I like the artist, or I mean like the author chose an artist and they chose an artist style that they like. So that gives me like a vibe of who the author is, you know? And if I like the cover, then I'm just like, this is mine now and I'm interested.
For sure. I think that expression is so weird because it's so hard not to judge a book by its cover.
I mean, there's so much to judge.
Exactly.
I mean, the book might be still great, obviously, but
yeah.
pretty book covers are pretty. Okay, I'm about done, so I don't think I'm going to run out of time.
You have 1 minute.
Okay.
Someone just commented, your art also feels like it should belong in the Dame Design. Hope I'm saying that right. It's all about Lady Knights.
Yeah. Yes, I'm actually really sad I didn't get to participate in that because I didn't know that it was happening until they closed submissions. And when I looked at it, actually one of my friends from high school is also in it. Her handle is Lissomy, Lissomy. She's a great artist. I love them. They also do some beautiful illustration work and they do a lot of wood burning now, which is really pretty, but there's so many of my favorite artists in that design, the Dane design, and I think the pre-orders are closed now, which stinks, but it's beautiful. But thank you. That means a lot that you think that it would be in it because that would be amazing. I love every artist in that book.
Wow, that's a wonderful drawing. I'm so glad I got to see the process in that. I know I definitely learned a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me, and thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you everyone for coming. And thanks again, Rachel, for showing us your process. If you want to see more about how Rachel does digital art, please, please, please join us for the mini workshop on the 2nd of April. It'll be an 1.5-hour class. So Rachel will have a little bit more time to go into more details about how the program works itself, any little shortcuts she picked up that she thinks you guys need to know. Yeah. So thanks again, Rachel. And thank you everybody for showing up. With that being said, my name is Brittany and I was your studio host today. If you guys just don't mind filling out that quick little survey, that would be amazing. And I hope you all have a great day. Thanks again. Bye.
Bye.